In the realms of the unknown, where science meets the extraordinary, welcome to Quantum Curiosities. Here we journey through the mysterious corridors of quantum theories and explore the thrilling chasms of the paranormal. Together, let's unravel the secrets of the universe, one curiosity at a time. Brace yourself, the fabric of reality is about to unfold.
Good evening, cosmic adventurers, and welcome aboard the maiden voyage of Quantum Curiosities. I am your host, Brian McFarlane, joined along with my regular cohorts in Curiosity, Ty and Melissa. And today we're casting off the moorings of convention, voyaging into the mesmerizing and bewildering waters of quantum mechanics. Our first stop, the enigmatic phenomenon known as the double-slit experiment. Now, allow us to set the scene. In our day-to-day world, things generally make sense. Apples fall from trees. The earth spins. A day turns into night. It's a world of cause and effect. But delve down deep into the subatomic level, the realm of particles smaller than atoms, and things start to get a little curious. In this Alice in Wonderland SQ micro world, we find our star attraction, the double slit experiment. Imagine a magic show where the magician is the universe itself, and the audience is left spellbound and scratching their heads. The traditional narrative reads something like this. Quantum particles exist in all possible states at once. But the moment we dare to speak, they make a choice. But what if the truth is even more fantastic, you say? Enter our first controversial contender, the audacious pilot wave theory. Picture, if you will, particles as surfer dudes riding their unique waves towards their destinations. In this view, these quantum particles have a defined destination, providing a stark contrast to the random and unpredictable nature that we've come to associate with quantum mechanics. Next, we pull back the curtain on the many worlds interpretation. It's kind of like stepping into the set of a sci-fi blockbuster, where every decision a particle could make results in a brand new universe. It's mind-boggling to think about it, isn't it? With every particle's decision, a new universe is born. And finally, we introduce the participatory ianthropic principle, a theory that suggests our very consciousness, our thoughts and awareness, might play a role in shaping the behavior of particles. Could we simply be observing, or could we be influencing reality? That's what we're here today to basically discuss. We're going to play along with these daring theories, and we might find ourselves on the fringes of mainstream science. But we must hold our ground while igniting our curiosity and challenging what we think we know about the fabric of reality. So, join us, guys, as we embark on this adventure through the looking glass into the quantum realm. All we ask is that you, our fellow explorers, keep an open mind. Join us as we journey through the quantum curiosities together. No question is too outlandish, no theory too wild, so strap in and hold tight. Let's dive in headfirst into the quantum rabbit hole. Remember, in our quest for knowledge, the only limit is our imagination. Until then, keep questioning and stay curious. And that's going to be the ongoing theme here, is to stay curious. And we look forward to many more episodes with you guys. So thank you for joining us. And so without any further ado, I have my friends Ty and Melissa joined with us. Hey guys.
Hey.
That was I love the intro. Love the intro.
Thank you.
That was great. that explains quite a lot in just a short period of time, and I think it really exemplifies where we're at. It really does. And relating the double slit experiment like that really lays it out. I mean, I know, Melissa, you probably feel the same, because that's where we started looking. Among the things that we're looking at, the double slit experiment really got us.
Well, see that's where indeed, the double slit experiment is one of those fascinating things that just it's counterintuitive experiments in the field of the quantum mechanics.
Mm-hmm. And the problem with the double slit experiment is, but it shouldn't work. It shouldn't be like that, and no one can really understand why it does what it does. And we've heard things tossed around talking about the observer effect. Is it because we're looking at it, or are we changing it ourselves? And I use the example often where someone's in Copenhagen and someone in New York, and they do the double slit experiment, and they say, is it Copenhagen says, are you ready, New York? New York says, I'm ready. Copenhagen sends the signal, and Copenhagen says, New York, what did you get? And New York says, well, I got a wave. And Copenhagen says, that's impossible. I sent a particle. New York says, double check. Copenhagen says, I don't have to double check. I know what I sent. It's a particle. Check your instruments. I see a wave. I'll check. Copenhagen comes back and says, you're not going to believe this. But even though I sent a particle, my instruments say it's a wave. It's always been a wave. New York says to Copenhagen, what are you talking about? The Mandela Effect. Because that's exactly what the Mandela Effect is like. The double slit experiment, it was always, whatever they say, it was always a wave. It was never a particle. It was always a wave. Does that make sense?
Well, yes. I have a couple of examples, or actually an example of something that everyone out there might be able to understand. Like, let's say, imagine you've been invited to a party. You're not really sure if you should dance, as you're shy and not entirely confident in your dance moves. You're just about to break out your moves, feeling the rhythm, when you notice someone's watching you. And then what happens? You kind of freeze up, right? And your dancing becomes awkward or halting. Here, you dancing freely without fear of judgment is similar to particles going through both slits and creating the interference pattern in the double slit experiment. But the moment somebody observes you, which is akin to measuring which slit the particle goes through, your behavior is going to change. So therefore, your wave function collapses and you choose your state, being frozen or dancing awkwardly.
Right. That's true. Then it would be your influence. It would be the observer effect, or as people say, you've heard tossed around, what was your intention? What was your intention? Did you intend it to be a wave? Did you intend it to be a particle? Is that what you intended? And that's the type of things that we get into. And we have experienced that ourselves, all three of us, over and over and over again. But one of the biggest concerns that we talked about earlier is I believe we're looking at something. Brian, I know that you also host the Mandela Effect. Okay. You also hold fellow Effectians. The those that are affected. The problem is, I believe for a very long time that the Mandela Effect is simply a symptom of a larger problem. It's just a symptom. I believe it points at something else. I believe that the answers lie in the quantum, and one of those answers lie in the double slit experiment would explain it. And if we and instead of we look for different Mandela effects, that's what we end up doing. We end up looking for different Mandela effects because that's basically the way we live our lives. We see this change, we see that change, and I've always maintained that differences in advertisements, different in slogans, different in different Mandela effects in history, are the easiest things that we can relate to people that don't know each other across distances. Okay, because obviously we don't all live. We may all live in the United States, but we don't live in the same state. We didn't grow up together, but yet we find common ground in the Mandela effect because we grew up with certain advertisement, we grew up with certain logos, and so we can see these changes too. But when it comes to that larger problem, the larger problem is our personal effects, if you will, our personal uh, quantum experiences, things that we can't readily share because the other person, Melissa doesn't share it or Brian doesn't share it, so I can't share it with them. So I have to explain it from scratch. Hey, by the way, this is what happened to me. This is what happened. Something changed, and it's all new. And unless they can relate to it, it's very hard. It's very hard to relate to people what's happening. Very difficult. I'm sure you've been through that yourself, Brian. I know Melissa has, of course.
Yeah, trying to explain it to people. If they don't see it, they just don't see it, so they're not
Right.
going to understand it,
Right,
and
and
it confuses them.
Yeah, we're not talking about Tuesday becoming Thursday. I'm not talking about something crazy. I'm saying that things that we see, things that have changed uh, outside of the ME. Um, I guess I should explain a little bit more. What I actually think is happening, what I personally think is happening, is much worse than the than anything the Mandela effect has to offer. What I think is there is I don't like it. First of all, I want to make perfectly clear. I don't like the implications at all. I don't like it. But I think even though I don't, it's this isn't something where I'm selling tickets. I whether you agree with me or not, that's fine. The trouble is that I really see a problem with in the quantum. I see a very big problem within the quantum, not because what I'm rationalizing and what I'm reading in books or what I'm picking up on YouTube or I talked with this guy or I talked with that guy. It's stuff that we've experienced. And from what we experienced, we've experienced something far worse than the Mandela effect. And basically, what it was a Mandela effect inside the Mandela effect. Is that the quite way? Is that the best way to explain it? You think, Melissa? The Mandela effect inside the Mandela effect,
Quantum bubbles.
like a quantum bubble. And after that experience, just to back up, just to let your viewers know, what happened was we broke off from the main Mandela Effect group for a bit. We wanted to focus in on certain things. We wanted to focus on what was happening in the Mandela Effect, and it was four of us together, and we talked quite often. And it didn't take very long. It was about a week or so that we were talking that we realized that we were seeing Mandela effects, and when we saw the Mandela effects, we found out that those people in the Mandela effect community didn't see the Mandela effects that we saw. And these Mandela effects were pretty bad Mandela effects. And we went back to the people that were in the Mandela effect community, and all of a sudden, they didn't have the same Mandela effect that they held for years, meaning that what used to be a chair was now a table. And they were saying that it's a table. And we said, wait a second, what did he just say? It's a table. Guys, that hasn't been a table. That was a chair. It's been a chair for years. And it wasn't just one person. It wasn't just two people. It was three different people. And we found ourselves to be caught up in this effect for how long was it, Melissa? 6 months?
Yeah.
6 months.
That's huge.
We couldn't get out. We could not get out. We couldn't find anybody that could relate to us. We couldn't find anybody that could see it. We couldn't find anybody to even talk with us. We couldn't, and I can't give you the names because I want to protect their, as me and Melissa discussed, I want to protect their privacy. But that's exactly what happened. For 6 months, we could not. At the end, go ahead. I'm sorry, Melissa.
Could have been like a dimensional quantum entanglement.
Yes, and we were trying to find out what was happening, and the nearest thing that we could figure out was that it was an entanglement. At the end of it, when we just, for lack of a better term, we willed ourselves out of it. We declared that it was over. That's it. We're done. We're disbanding. We're leaving. We're done. No more. And it was instantly gone, right?
Yes.
It was instantly gone. That was it. And I went back to the same people that I talked to, the same 3 people. We all did together. Not, this is all together now. It wasn't just my personal experience. It was those people together with me. We went to them and said, hey, what do you think about what's been going on about the chair turning into a table? And they said, what are you talking about? It's always been a chair. And we said, what did you say? It's always been a chair. It's never been a table. And we said, listen, we've been talking to you for months now. You've been telling me it's a table. No. When did I say that? It's always been a chair. What? They had no recollection of ever talking to us. All 3 people had no recollection of ever talking to us at any time in the last 6 months prior to that.
Can I just say something about that?
Yes.
I wanted to ask our audience out there, guys. Have you guys experienced anything out there where someone that you're talking to has claimed that they told you something? You can swear up and down that you never said it, but they recall it very clearly you saying something. Has anyone ever experienced something like that? I'm wondering.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. I'm sure there's some people that have to be
I've had it happen to me.
Something similar, because we can't be the only ones. But this, like I said, the reason why it's so bad was not only was it that it happened at all, but was the fact that it went on for 6 months. We could not get out. We could not. And that was, we couldn't break free of it. We said, what's going on? The nearest we could come to was it was a quantum entanglement that we ourselves had to be entangled. And it was quite jarring. Would you say, Melissa, it was bad. It was very bad. And when we finally came out of it, it was it was a head scratcher, to say the least. Now, with that being said, my own personal opinion is that, like Brian was saying earlier, in the introduction, about the observer effect, whether it was the influence or it was the intention, I think that had something to do with it. I don't like the implications of it. I don't like the implications of it at all. But I think that we have something to do with it. I think that we are, for lack of a better term, I think we're causing it to happen. I think we're influencing
it. Let's break this down for our audience, because the reason why. Let's explain why we gave the title of the pilot episode, Ty, the Devil's Advocate. Why did we call it that?
Well, that's a tongue-in-cheek. It's an inside joke between Brian and I. When Brian and I used to do shows together way back when 2016. When we did shows together, he wanted me on the show as a historian, to be a historical figure, because I remembered events in history. And I said, "Oh, I remembered. I mean, I'm a little bit older, you know." And he said, "No, you're like you're a good devil's advocate." And I said, "I'm not a devil's advocate." And of course, I would be a devil's advocate, and because, like I said before, I don't like the implications. I don't like the implications at all. And it's not that these type of things. It's not that you have to believe these things. You don't have to believe in gravity for gravity to affect you. You don't have to believe in that the Earth revolves around the sun, but it does. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, let me just say, Ty, that the reason we agreed about the being the devil's advocate, it's a very important role. You have to basically go against what I like to call the groupthink.
Right.
Because, like when you're trying to bring up Mandela effects or any changes, glitches in reality, or any new concept,
Yes.
you're going to have some people that, well, you might have a majority of people that will agree with you because they're curious about the subject and
Hmm.
they've had odd experiences as well.
Hmm.
And, but then you have this sort of galvanization where everybody's sort of thinking along the same lines. And then so being the devil's advocate is to take a position that that they don't necessarily agree with for the sake of the debate.
But that's
Or
exactly what a devil's advocate is: taking a position that you don't necessarily agree with, and arguing from that position. Unfortunately, we do find ourselves in that position quite a bit. We have to take that position for sake of the greater good. We have to. We can't sink everybody's ship.
Mhm.
We can't say, "Hey, wait a second, you have to think this is the way." We have to do it that way, and
yes,
that is the definition of a devil's advocate,
yes,
and we
because
have to. We have
there's
to.
a lot of people that come on and they talk. You know, there's mainstream theories that tend to pop up when it comes
Hmm.
to Mandela effects and to paranormal.
Hmm.
You have a lot of mainstream theories.
Hmm.
So with this role of devil's advocate, it's that person's job to take on that to examine, cross-examine these mainstream theories, and also to be an interpreter of the quantum, basically the quantum mechanics. So you have to know science, and you kind of have you do we do religion tends to intertwine because it is paranormal. So sometimes religion and like my channel, the Brian McFarlane Effect is the other channel.
Hmm.
You guys are welcome to subscribe to it. And Ty, do you have a channel you want to do a
No,
shout out to?
I do, but there's nothing on it. It's just
Okay.
that's not my calling to do that stuff right now. Um,
Melissa, I believe Melissa has a channel, right? It's a prayer channel. Is that right?
There's nothing on it.
mhm.
Okay.
Right,
Well,
we're very we're very
still very new.
I'm very content to be a help to people.
Yes, and that's great. Because people are lost when it comes to this stuff, and um, when I first found and discovered the Mandela effect, I was very lost myself. It was complete deer in the headlights for me.
Hmm.
I there was
We all
very
were, we all
I don't know,
were.
there's very few channels at the time were even talking about it.
Right.
I mean, there was Moneybag 73 talking about it.
Hmm.
He's pretty much the one who woke me up. Um, and like channels like Scare Performance.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, doing all this, uh, I feel like it's a calling. To be honest with you, Ty. Like there are some things we're called to do, and I think challenging some of the theories is very important. Um,
I have to
and,
agree.
and we're
I have to agree, and
we
that's
have to
one of
use logic. We have to
yeah.
break it down logically, but also from a Christian perspective.
I have to agree again. I have to because this is the only thing that seems to touch on every aspect. It touches on science. It touches on biblical stuff, religion, like you said. It touches on the last days. At the end times. It touches on everything. It really does.
Well, in the context of the quantum, okay.
Hmm.
So what's weird is that Isaiah 11:6 changed.
Hmm.
Um, it's no longer the lion that lays down with the lamb,
Hmm.
and the very last translation that I remember seeing the lion laying down with the lamb
Hmm.
was German. It
Hmm.
was a German transcript,
Right.
and I can't even find that residue anymore. Like the
Right.
residue vanished.
Yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. If people think the biggest thing that Melissa and I go through is that just because we don't highlight everything with the ME, we just don't. We don't. That's not our calling. We don't highlight everything with the ME. Unfortunately, we're still in the quantum, and it's not over yet. We deal with the stuff all the time, and that is a problem. That's a real problem. I want people to know that just because you're outside of the ME or you don't want to be part of the community doesn't mean that you're not going to be affected by it. You're still affected by it. You're still in something, and our problems or our experiences can't be the only ones. I believe there's a ton of people out there having experiences that are outside of your residue, outside of just seeing a Mandela effect, or what do you think about this, guys, or what do you think about that? Beyond that, there's real problems that for example, when I was telling you about the chair versus the table thing when we were stuck in that thing for 6 months, uh, that stuff still happens in small doses, or you should say, small variations. We see something that changes and then it changes back. Do you remember, Melissa? You remember the Dog the Bounty Hunter, Dog the Bounty Hunter's wife, Beth?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Brian, you were there when we went through this. Okay, we went through this, and we were live when we were going through this, and this is going years back. But Dog the Bounty Hunter's wife, Beth, died, and everybody said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe she's dead. I can't believe it. It's just awful." The problem is that she died again, and we talked about it again, and we were literally flipping out. We're going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it happened again. She's dead, and now she's dead again." She died that day, and then unfortunately, she died a third time, right, Melissa? She died a third time in very short succession. It wasn't a year later. It was what, a couple weeks, Melissa? Was it like that? A couple weeks?
2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks later, she died again. That day, she died that day. We were all witnessing it. We're watching it again and again and again. Now, I don't. We even at that time we were like, we didn't take time. The reason why Melissa and I wanted to do something like this with Brian, the reason why it was so important to us was because we call that a Mandela effect. But is it? Is it a Mandela effect? When Beth died, it wasn't something that I saw in the newspaper. It wasn't something that Melissa saw in the newspaper. It wasn't something that Brian and we talked about. Hey, do you remember? Hey, this thing happened to me. No, we were experiencing all in real time. We saw Beth die three times, and she died that day. She wasn't dying last week. She wasn't dying. It was a crazy, crazy thing, and that's not really a Mandela effect. A Mandela effect is something that changed. You remember it another way. Why are people dying over and over and over again? That's something wrong, and that's something else. That's not really a Mandela effect. That's a quantum problem. That's something is going on. That's a problem. Do you remember? We were just talking about this. Do you remember, Brian? We were talking about a short while ago. I said, remember in the beginning of the Mandela Effect back in 2016, where we were really scratching our heads and we were really going crazy. And I said, man, either something's wrong with the universe or something's wrong with us. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I mean, that was quite a lengthy conversation we had.
Right. And I believe now, and sharing this with you, Brian, and talking with Melissa, I believe now the answer to that is that there's something wrong with the universe and there's something wrong with us. I think there's two different things going on. I think there's a reason why we actually see the Mandela effect. There's a reason why we actually see the quantum. And I believe, to answer your question from the beginning, that we're actually affecting it.
But I have to ask you, Ty, I have to ask you something here. So, what do you believe? Do you think we were meant to see the Mandela effect? Is it, or is it we weren't supposed to see it? You know?
No, I believe that we're meant. I think that we're meant to see it for some reason. We're meant to see the quantum, and I think now again it's a stretch. Melissa, you have to back me up here, because I mean we really, now you got to remember, in that 6-month thing, we were really going through everything. We're reading everything. We're cataloging everything. We're going through everything. One of the things that we said was, what is going on? Is it quantum? Is it, what are we doing? And we came up with, we had to be affecting it ourselves. It had to be us. It had to be us. It had to be one of us. It had to be somebody. It had to be our influence. We had to be changing our reality, whether it had to be intentional, unintentional, whatever it was. We didn't know at the time. I believe it was intentional. I believe we did it intentionally.
Well, for me, it's like that message that we get from the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. You know, we're not
yeah, well,
supposed to know. We're not supposed to know that he's there, but yet we know he's there.
that
So
brings
it
us
changes the whole script.
that's exactly right. But that brings us to something else. Is that there's an inherent danger to it, I believe. And this is what Melissa and I, you have talked about several times. We definitely think now with the advent of the AI, there of that intelligence, as you know, doesn't it feel like, as we talked about before, Brian, doesn't it feel like there's sort of a mind behind what we're seeing? Doesn't it feel like there's sort of an intention behind what we're looking at? These Mandela effects that we see aren't exactly random. Don't they follow a specific thing? Aren't they following something? And when we experience something, are we meant to see it? Did we mean to see that? Is somebody trying to tell us something? And with that in mind, is there a mind behind it? Is there something behind
I don't know.
behind the Mandela effect, behind the quantum effect? Is there something behind it?
I don't know, but Ty, I have to tell you something, and Melissa. Last night on the other channel, the Brian McFarlane Effect, on my other channel, we were talking about a new change in Back to the Future, where you know the scene in Back to the Future 1, when Marty's sitting in the car with his mother, like
Yes.
when she's a lot younger and it's in the 50s.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm kissing my brother.
Yeah, it's like kissing my brother kind of thing.
Right.
And so do you remember when she says somebody's coming and over to the car or whatever, and it happens to be Biff?
Yeah.
Marty is not surprised anymore. He actually knows that Biff is coming. It's
Marty was definitely surprised. There's no doubt about it. Definitely surprised. Absolutely.
But the movie is changed in the past, the present, and the future. Mandela effects affect reality retroactively.
Yes, exactly like the double slit experiment. Exactly like the double slit experiment. Now,
we have a problem.
Go ahead.
With reality. The fabric of reality is broken. It's malleable.
I don't think it is broken. I think it's the way it's always been. And for some reason, I believe the closer we get to whatever we're getting close to, I think it's becoming what we call the thinning of the veil. I think we're getting close to whatever it is. I think it's getting worse. We've always, I don't want to sit there and say that we're special.
A transition period.
I think it's a transition. I think we're going through a transition. I think things are getting worse. When you go anywhere that you go, obviously we're in the Mandela Effect community. Obviously we're in the quantum community. Even if you go outside of our community, they're still talking about shades of what we're talking about. They're still talking about the stuff. They're talking about how things are getting worse. They're talking about things aren't the way they used to be, and they're not. And they're not. And with that in mind, I really believe, I think our constituents, our friends, are the people that think like we do, the people that see the changes. I got to tell you, I think they're in some sort of danger. I think they're in some sort of trouble.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about that for a minute, Ty, because we've lost some people in the community. We've lost. Right. Let's talk about. Can we mention names? First names.
It's you can. It's up to you.
I don't know. We'll just say we lost our dear friend Corey. Okay.
Yes, we did.
Rest in peace, Corey. He could not get his liver transplant in time during COVID. And that really messed things up for him in Canada. Because the medical is just not, fast enough up there, I guess, to get.
That's true. It's in the middle of COVID too. Right. It was bad. But we've been through a number of those changes, and a number of people have suffered losses, and then there's still other people that are AWOL that that are not, that we don't know where they are. We just don't know where they are. And it's not where they don't want to talk to us or something, where they decided that they don't want to talk to us. It's that they're just not available, and we'll do anything to help them. And they know that, right, Melissa? I mean, they know. There's a couple people out there that will do anything for, and they choose not to call for whatever reason. I hope they're
Well, that's
okay.
it's
Mhm.
to me. To me, it's like Schrodinger's cat. You have to you have to check on the individual to make sure. Hey, are you okay? You know, because you don't know if the cat's dead or alive until you check.
When we did the tally, Melissa, what was it? 60%? We lost 60% of the people.
Yeah.
60%, Brian. We lost 60% of the original group. Something happened to
Yeah.
60%. So that's why I think, and it's why I say, in part, it's why I say I think we're in danger. I think we're in trouble. I think.
Well,
Uh-huh.
that's the whole thing. I think united we stand, divided we fall rings true for our community. For you know, I know you guys are brand new with us out there listening. So we invite you to also check out my other channel, the Brian McFarlane Effect. It's a YouTube channel dedicated to the Mandela Effect and preaching also the Word of God, because we need to reach as many people as we possibly can. Um, this channel was created solely to sort of be. We needed to segregate, like, or what do they call that? Networking subnet. We needed to create a subnet, basically, of
Subgroup,
a
yeah, yeah.
subclass.
A
Yeah,
subreddit.
like a
Yeah,
subreddit.
I think it's very important because in the channels you've seen them in all the Mandela Effect channels. You and even the different Mandela Effect group dedicated even to Bible things, right, Melissa? You'll talk about things in a very cursory terms, 30 seconds and then move on, 15 seconds, then move on. A lot of these things are not sound bites. They take time. They do take time to explain. And Melissa and I and Brian, oh, they're 100 stories easily. 100 stories of things that we just cannot explain, things that we just don't, we to this day, they just leave us scratching our heads. And I know we're not alone. I know there is many people out there that have similar experiences. And Melissa said many times, geez, I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm not. That's just what happens. And just to let people know, look, you're not going crazy. These things are happening sometimes, and we can help you figure it out. But just because, what do they say? There's not a demon behind every bush. It's not like that. There are some explanations, but a lot of times in our situation, more often than not, we see the same old problem, Brian. There's no explanation. I tell people, I said, this happened. You're kidding. No, I'm not. I'm not kidding. This happened. Oh my gosh, you're kidding. That's awful. Yeah, it is awful. Hey, same thing happened to me. You're kidding. No, I'm not kidding. And that's what we go through. So it's nice to have a camaraderie of people that we can talk to, people that can identify with the same problems that we have from time to time. But one of the things, like I said, I brought up before, was the fact that even though we're not trying to highlight the Mandela effect, we still find problems. It's almost like, for lack of a better term, Brian, like I was saying, it's almost like it knows. It already knows. We're there. I'm sure you've experienced the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, your daughter's awake.
Speaking of
Shelley.
observers,
Yeah. So, Melissa,
Yes.
what's the other thing that you wanted to bring up? What was it?
Were you going to talk about the brain hemispheres?
Oh, that's right.
Maybe we
Okay.
should save that until the next show. You think?
Yeah. Well, just as a cursory thing, I guess. Yeah. Just there is, I believe there is some proof out there in regarding the hemispheres of our brain. There was an experiment out there, process, right? It was called process. That was done out there, that we can talk about another time, that the government was doing. It was a program that they were doing, that what they were doing in effect was exactly what you would call quantum, the quantum effect, quantum jumping. experiencing the Mandela Effect, changing reality. And this was a government. This was a government experiment. So, but we can talk about that another time. I'm sorry. And it was something I didn't explain it fully. It was something where these people could affect reality itself. That was the point. They could
Past,
affect
present, and future.
past, present, and future. And it was something they had down to a science. It wasn't anything special about the people at all. Anybody could do it. Anybody could. They just had to be trained to do it. And my thought was, what if these people that see the Mandela effect, that experience problems in the quantum fields, what if these people can change their realities?
Well, I have to say something here because you mentioned you got me on a rabbit hole talking about experiments here. There was a well-known series of experiments. It dealt with separate hemispheres of the brain. There was a split brain experiment conducted by Roger Sperry in the 1960s, which he was awarded the official Nobel Prize in physiology in 1981. And what these experiments did, they performed on patients who had undergone it's a corpus callostomy. It's like a procedure that severs the corpus callosum, the main connection between the two hemispheres. And what that did was it basically relieved severe epilepsy. It revealed a great deal about the different functions of the two hemispheres, and that's where we learned about the left hemisphere controls the logic, and the right, they're separated.
That's right. That's exactly right. This other thing was called, what was it called? The Gateway Experiments. The Gateway Experiment that was run by the CIA, and they've declassified those documents. You can find out about it, but that's it's when I was reading up on it and I was looking through it was pretty. It looks very much like what you would call a quantum experiment, a quantum. What would you call it, Melissa? Quantum reality. That's what it would seem like. Change quantum, just changing your reality at will. It wasn't anything no guesswork. There's no guesswork, and there was no maybe about it. They were able to do it, and they did it at will.
Yeah, what was that called,
Melissa?
Gateway experiment.
The Gateway Experiment.
The Gateway Experiment. Yeah. And I believe that's what you're dealing with some of these people. I believe some of these people have the ability to do it without any conditioning, because what me and Melissa had discovered when we were going through the paperwork, because we're sharing them back and forth, was there was a lot of prep work in it. Just going through everything and meditations and breathing exercises and understandings and a whole bunch of things that they had to do to achieve this. Whereas I believe that people that are in the community, I believe some of them don't have to do anything to achieve it. I think they're just natural people that can do it.
Wait a second. This sounds very familiar. See, back in the 90s, I engaged in stuff that I probably should not have been doing. But there was this bio brain feedback thing that I was playing around with at one time.
Okay.
And this Gateway experience, apparently, I'm reading up on it. It's a training system designed by the Monroe Institute. Uses audio patterns. Is that right? It's like a hemisync to. It basically induces different mental states.
What you do is you'll find from the Gateway Experiment that other people all over the place are duplicating the same experiments, following their pattern to get similar results. And that's why you have people that say reality shifters or quantum jumpers or this and that, trying to duplicate the same thing. And there's people out there, Melissa, what are they called? Manifesting realities and this and that. And I believe there's something to it. However, I believe in our community, I believe there are people that do it naturally. And that's why, like I said, I believe that these people, I believe that there's... God, I'm sorry.
I might be playing devil's advocate in this case here, but are we supposed to be engaging in that type of stuff as Christians, Ty? I'm just asking you.
No, and that's what I'm saying. That was the problem with the experiment itself. One of the things that they talked about early on is that they were looking for people that wouldn't be hung up on religion, wouldn't be hung up on political, wouldn't be hung up on a sociological problem. Can they actually do this? And I'm saying that there's people out there that can do it, that have no that don't have to go through any of the rigmarole, that don't have to go through any of the sound conditioning, that don't have to go through any of the process at all, that they can do it naturally. And those people would be very, very, very interesting to certain powers that be, I would think, if they don't need any conditioning and they can affect their reality, which would mean, are there people in the Mandela Effect community that would be important to people in higher places? I think they would be. I think it's just common sense. I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I'm just spitballing. I'm just throwing things out the wall to see what sticks. I'm not trying to cause panic or anything. I'm not. I'm just saying.
Well,
it only makes sense.
I want to tell you. Apparently, this document has been officially declassified. It's very real, very truthful.
Right. That's right. That you were talking about the CIA,
and it's called. Yeah, the one from the CIA. It's actually called. I'm looking at it right now. I can actually show you the document. Hang on.
Yeah.
I can actually show it to you. Hang on one second. Sorry about that.
Yep,
okay.
That's it.
Yeah, this is from the Department of the Army. It's been officially declassified. It says here, you tasked me to provide an assessment of the Gateway experience in terms of its mechanic and ultimate practicality. As I set out to fulfill that tasking, it soon became clear that in order to assess the validity and the practicality of the process, I needed to do enough supporting research and analysis to fully understand how and why the process works. So apparently this has been tested with the U.S. Army. You guys see that?
Yes, and it's CIA that implemented it, and the problems with it was exactly what I just said, with the religious implication, with the sociological implications, the political implications. They needed people that wouldn't be so inclined. They needed people to get the program, and they were having trouble finding subjects to do it because it was against what they believed in. However, they did, and it does work. It does work, and that's part of the thing. And that isn't the only thing. We found several things similar to it at different experiments. This isn't the only one, but this one says specifically that they could bend reality at will. Specifically, it wasn't anything. There was no maybe about it. It was no maybe about it. It was they could do it specifically.
But that's just the thing. Like, imagine if you could bend reality to in which you end up in a reality where you win the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
That's very tempting, but you probably would be collapsing the other universe where you used to exist in. Like, I would be very scared of.
You're talking about multiple universes, and they're only talking about a universe of that is simply in this conversation. We're just talking about a universe that's malleable. That's what they're part of the experiment. Is very interesting. What they say is that they want their participants to understand, first of all, that everything is made up of, like Tom says, ones and zeros, and that, like they say, energy. And that energy, everything is made up of energy, whether it's a table or it's a chair or it's a planet or it's a star. It's all made up of energy. And that energy is malleable. You can make that energy be whatever, all the way down to whatever you think of, all the way down to whatever you want. You can move the energy, you can store the energy, you can manipulate the energy. And that's what they get to in the Gateway experiment. That's what they want people to understand. And with that process is understood, they then encourage the engagement of those people to change reality, and they do it. And I'm saying that there's people out there that change reality without the implementation of the Gateway process. They do it by themselves. That's what I'm saying.
That just blows my mind that they've actually proven that this works.
Right. I know. It blew our mind too.
And so now everything that Cynthia Sue Larson, our friend Cynthia Sue Larson has been telling us.
We talked to Cynthia.
My
We talked
I
to
mean,
Cynthia. Not to name drop, but we did talk when this happened. We did, right, Melissa? We called her. We called her, and she was. She was. I don't know how to explain it, Melissa. Right? She
was very intrigued.
She was intrigued. That's a good way to put it. I think the reason why she was intrigued, and as much as she was because I believe most of her people, most of her participants, because she herself, she has a program too, I believe, right, Melissa? She has something similar. Most of the participants in her program and most of the experience that she hears about are one-on-one. You'll have Joe or John Doe or whoever talking to her about how this was this and now this is that, and they changed her reality and this and that. But our situation was very different. Our situation was we had a group of people all experiencing the same thing in real time. It wasn't something that we were just, this happened to be on Tuesday and this happened to be on Thursday. We were experiencing it in real time over a period of 6 months. She was quite, as Melissa says, intrigued. She was quite intrigued.
So you were stuck in this whatever so-called loop for 6 months, right? You said?
Yeah, in fact, we were calling it a loop for a long time because we didn't have any other name for it. We were calling it a loop.
And you guys said that you noticed like some of my videos disappearing, or all of them, or something.
Yes, and they did, and they really did, because God only knows we had the time and we were looking for it. We were looking for them, and what if you want to know the story, guys? Just to let you know, one day we were watching Brian's show together. We were all together. Let's see what Brian has on, and we're watching his show. And we go, wait a second. Brian says, hello, welcome, fellow Mandela Effectians, and welcome to the show. And today we've got a brand new Mandela Effect. And whatever the Mandela Effect it was, it doesn't matter. Let's call it an apple. Just call it an apple, okay? We have a Mandela Effect concerning an apple. And we look at each other and go, he's already done that. It's a brand new Mandela Effect, an apple. And we go, we've already done that. And everybody says, yeah, he's already done that. And so sure enough, I call Brian on the phone and I say, hey, Brian, what's with the apple? And you're doing Mandela Effects that you've already done. He goes, well, which one? I said, well, the apple. And he says, I did it already? Yes, you did it already. He goes, when? I don't know when he did it. 6 months ago, a year ago. I don't know. We were all together. We all talked about it several times. He goes, no. I said, yes, you did. You know what? Let me go. I'm sure it's in your files. Let me check your folders and see. So I'm looking through the files. I go on YouTube. I'm looking through everything. He doesn't have anything to do with it. There's nothing about the apple. There's nothing about that change. Not only is there no apple for Brian's channel, there's no apple on the internet anywhere by anybody. And nobody had it. Nobody did. And this Mandela Effect that you did was not only done, it was done how long ago, Melissa? A year ago? A year and a half ago? It was done a long time ago. It was not new. But we couldn't find any evidence of it being done at any time. And we were beside ourselves. We were freaking out.
Well, that's not the only thing that has looks like it's freaked you guys out. I've been freaked out as well. On my other channel, the Brian McFarlane Effect, I covered Revlon's logo changing, where like it's merged,
right?
Where some of the letters are merged like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that change in real time when it happened, and I documented it. The logo change.
Yes.
With Revlon.
I think it's only because you're so used to it now that when you see it, you document. When normally when you see it, you go, well, that's just my mind playing tricks on me. That's what we do. We're like, I don't really remember, but you do remember. And
here's the thing about that. You know how we were just talking about quantum jumps and everything like that, and you mentioned you guys were in this 6-month loop or whatever.
Yep.
So this woman, I can't say her name on YouTube, Okay.
Hmm.
She came to me and showed me with metadata. You know what metadata is, right?
Sure, I sure do.
When you take a picture, there's information about that picture
Right.
that is stored in memory, not volatile memory.
what makes up the picture? Yeah, metadata.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, this photo she showed me, I actually covered this effect 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks prior to that video that
Yep.
I posted about the Revlon.
Yep.
So here I am, like, I'm shocked. I believe the video is up on my channel, and you guys can search it out. Just look up Revlon, Brian McFarland. You can probably find it. I can't show it on here. Um, yeah, you'll just have to check that out, and then don't forget to like and subscribe to the other channel as well
Do you
for
believe,
for
Brian?
more.
Do you
But
believe? God, I'm sorry.
no, I'm saying so. It is quite possible that we might, when it comes to like quantum jumping and things of that nature, we might be doing it without even knowing it.
Yes. Yes. Do
We
you believe?
might
Do you believe?
Like,
God, Melissa.
we might be dealing with a time fluctuation where different people in different places are seeing things before everyone else sees it, or experiencing a quantum time
yes,
distortion.
Oh gosh. Yes.
but
Yeah.
doesn't the
But
Bible?
what she's actually saying, just to clarify that, what she's actually saying is that in times past we have seen news reports. Okay, we have seen honest. Okay, I know it sounds bad. We've seen news reports. We've seen news reports to go back to read the news again online. This isn't anything in the paper. This is online, and go back to see the news report, and the news report is gone. There's nothing there at all. It's scrubbed from the internet completely. Can't find it. Not there. Only to find out later, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, next month, the same news report comes out that I already read. We already saw it. But what's that? That's not the Mandela Effect. What happened there? That's something else. That's not the Mandela Effect. So I believe that Mandela, again, just to reiterate, I believe the Mandela Effect is a symptom of something larger, albeit it might be in the same vein. Uh, it's something larger. I believe something else is going on, and that's something that's going on. I I think a discussion needs to be had. Something needs to be said about it to at least that we can be aware that we can be somehow
Yeah.
somehow to protect ourselves in some way, to be aware that this is happening. For lack of a better, for lack of a better explanation, I don't know what else to say about
If we're
that.
caught up in the quantum, then
Mhm.
the quantum would have no time.
That's correct.
So then it would be possible for people to be experiencing time distortion.
That is correct, because one of the things in the Gateway experiment, Brian, when you read it, I think there's a couple of different documents. That first document that you showed, there's another document, very extensive. It goes down through pages and pages explaining the Gateway experiment. One of the things that they want people to understand, right, Melissa, that all time is all the time.
Isn't
That's
that Planck's theory?
Yes, and that's what they just said. That's what they were saying. Not that time doesn't exist, because of course it doesn't exist, because time is just a construct. But all time is all the time, meaning that they have full. Am I explaining it correctly, Melissa?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what she did. I believe that's what you were getting at about the dilation.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and that's
Mm.
something that we saw too.
We can dive into it deeper on the next show.
Yeah. There's so many. There's a lot of information to go through, and I'm glad that we had the time to discuss it. And I don't mean to be a microphone. I don't mean to hog all the. I don't mean to take center stage or anything. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
No, it's fine. Trust me. We have to challenge the mainstream ideas. When it comes to I don't know how to say this without. I have to sort of dance around the algorithm a little bit here because I don't want to get in trouble. But I believe that we've hit the mother lode with the Mandela effect. Uh, I'm just saying because it sort of intertwines it with everything else. You know, you have the paranormal aspect. You know, people dying and then they're back again. How's that possible?
That is
You know,
correct, but that
Nelson
is
Mandela dying. He died in the 80s or 90s, and then now he's back again, and then he died again in 2013. And that's only one of many people who have supposedly died and came back. And then we did have a lot of it didn't help at all. We have had so many internet hoaxes. I mean, it's like how do you know what to believe anymore? You know?
that is true. That is true. But as we experienced it through, because we experienced so much, we went through so many times. There should be no doubt when people sit there and say the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect doesn't real. The Mandela effect isn't real. It's just a figment of your imagination, or it's misremembering, whatever they call that. Okay, that may be true. That may be true in some instances. I'll give you that. But when you see somebody die and then they die again and then they die again, what do you call that? What exactly do you call that? This isn't something where I'm reading it on the internet. We're reading it from the news site itself. Is it a hoax on the news site over and over again? Is it? And they died the same way. It wasn't that they died a different way. They died exactly the same way. Again, we've heard this story before. We've already read this. We're reading it again. And this is something that happened to us over and over and over again. We all can attest to it. Not that we like it, and we can't sit there and tell everybody about it because they think that we're half crazy. But the thing is that we went through this in this particular instance together. We went through this together. You were there, I was there. That's the point. We went through it together, and that is not the Mandela effect. This is not a logo changing. This is someone dying or likewise coming back to life, right? So what is that? Well, that's not a Mandela effect. That's in the quantum realm, and that's something else. So what do we call that? A quantum effect, Melissa? Quantum effect? We had to call it something.
Quantum entanglement.
Quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement. Yeah, for lack of a better term. So, but the Mandela effect, I think the Mandela effect is a symptom of something much larger, and it's just like how people see that 11:11. Melissa, you were telling me we were talking about that the other day. The 11:11, the universe is trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the Mandela effect is very much like that.
The universe is trying to tell us something.
The universe is trying to tell us something.
Well, speaking of things telling something, I believe that our next episode we should dip into or sort of dive into quantum entanglement more and telepathy. I think that's an important aspect that we need to cover next.
That sounds good. That sounds great. I look forward to that. But I appreciate you having me on. I really do. I really enjoy talking with you guys. Of course, if you need anything, let me know. If anything I can help with, obviously you have my number.
All right, Ty. Would you like to set this up then for next Sunday?
Yes, of course. Anytime. But next Sunday is fine by me.
And what about you, Melissa? You good with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well. That being said, any closing statements from either of you guys?
I think it's very important. I think it's very important that we share our experiences such that we're not alone, such that we can help each other, we can encourage each other. Because I think people we're living in a very desperate time, very lonely time. We're all very blessed in our own lives, in our own ways. We all have our problems. Don't get us wrong. We all do. But any way that we can help one another, we really should. That's what we're here for. I think that's what we should do. Just to try to encourage each other. And if it's something that we don't agree with, I think that we should take things so seriously. The one thing that we should take seriously is that we should take each other's persons seriously. Brian's opinion, we should take it seriously. Melissa's opinion, we should take it seriously, because in the end, we only have each other. That's what we have. I think it's important that we really take the time to do that, to let everybody know that we're there, to let everybody know that we will try to do what we can.
Yes.
I think that's very important.
I think it is also. We are here for you guys, and I want to leave you with a thought. Now we dove deep into the mysteries of quantum mechanics. We've asked some challenging questions. We've even ventured beyond the known into the realm of the speculative. We've questioned, we've wondered, and we've pondered everything. And while we may not have found concrete answers, we've ignited our curiosity and broadened our perspectives. Remember, science is not just about finding the answers, it's about the courage to question the world around us, to seek, explore, and to wonder. And as we close, I'd like to leave you with a short prayer. I hope everyone's okay with that. Dear Lord, as we marvel at the intricacies of your creation, we are graciously humbled by the grandeur and the complexity of the universe. We thank you for the gift of curiosity and the power of intellect, the tools that enable us to explore your universe. Guide us on our quest for understanding and grant us the wisdom to discern truth from the illusory, and also the humility to accept that some answers may elude us completely. In your word, it says in Proverbs chapter 2, verse 6, "For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding." We ask that you bestow upon us this same wisdom as we venture into the quantum and the unknown again on the next episode. Amen.